everybody. Natalie coming to you live. Spirit and coffee. Got my coffee here. hmm Very good. Okay, how is everybody? Wait a little bit, see if anyone gets on here. See how people are doing, what they're up to, how they're feeling. Um, okay, so as you know, there's a lot going on. Every day, it feels like a billion, trillion things start to get, put in your face. Um, Causing a lot of confusion, chaos, um, and perhaps not even knowing what to look for, what to look at, what to believe, who to believe, and it's designed that way so that we can try to find our way through the chaos. Good morning, Suze. So there's a lot of just misunderstandings. Okay, a lot of people just throwing out tons of information. Um, and for me, the way that I understand the world and phenomena around me, right, um, is that as within, so without. There's nothing that's outside of us. Okay. Good morning, Angie. There's nothing that is not connected to who we are. We are all interconnected. Okay. And we can prove this. Okay, I know some people like the science, but scientifically they have proven through quantum physics that we are all connected, that we're under one consciousness. Well, you can't really say that we're not disconnected. I don't know that you need science to really view the phenomena that we're all interconnected. We're all on this planet, we're all under the same sky. We can't say that we're separate from that. Um, now there's waves that happen. There's tiny little choices that we make that sort of add ripples to this pool of understanding. Our thoughts shape the way we perceive the world, the way that we engage with the world. All of these things, okay, have an impact, have a consequence. Part of the teachings are the consequences that come with what we choose, right? Now, there's no right, wrong, good, or bad. There's no, there's none of that. There's just choice. And then in choice, there's a result. Now, in the result, what we experience as bad is usually suffering, right? The suffering that comes to us, and the suffering that we experience is based on the choices that we make or have made, or on a choice or something that happened in phenomena around us. So it could be a personal choice, right? That we make that leads to some sort of suffering. Now, we experience this because we think that there's a duality. We don't see it as a wholeness, as a oneness, as it stands in one. Now, here's the deal. How do we get back to oneness, to wholeness in this crazy, chaotic time where so much information is being given to us that people don't even know where to look anymore. People are trying to figure out what is the truth, right? Good morning, Antonio. Good morning, Roberto. Good morning, Angie. Good morning, Panzer Tank. Good morning, bestie. So much information's out there. Okay. Good morning, Ellie. And the thing is that people are trying to figure out what is the truth. They don't really, I think it because I had said before that as within, so without. So when we're confused and when we see chaos happening around us, we are in chaos. Right now, there are people that are in chaos. They don't know they don't know what to do. Okay. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna provide you an understanding. Okay, because that dispositionalism was a great way to sort of put together what sort of an understanding of kind of where we are in the biblical timeline, historical timeline given to us through other text about revelations and what that means. Is there anything to fear? No, unless you have fear, but we all have fear. So you've got to get clear right now about what your fears are. What are your fears? Because really, what is happening right now is a redesign of a system. Okay, redesigning of the system. What does that mean? That means that we are setting new foundations. Now, I did a workshop a while back about setting foundations. I told you guys we are in a 4-year cycle, meaning foundations, okay? That's the emperor, okay? Number 4 is the emperor. 4 says that we set foundations. Think about it. When we look at the pyramid, it was set on 4, right? It has 4 corners. It's like it's a square built up into a triangle, right? It's not 3-sided, it's 4-sided. Why? Because we know that 4 sides is a very, very foundational structure. It's strong. It doesn't waver. It's just that's the best you can have is a 4, right? Okay, so we build the foundations. Well, what are we building our foundation on now? So in that workshop that I gave you guys, it was setting your principles. Now, I've watched this video that was really amazing, and I'm going to post it on the Spirit and Coffee page because I think that it gives a very clear understanding of what dispositionalism is from the perspective of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, which are the text, the Hindu text, right? The text that we get from India. Now, they sort of tell us here's how God administers what is happening. And I like the idea of administration because it puts it into law. What is the law? How do we understand the law? How do we begin to think about the law critically? Okay. So here's the deal. And I'm going to try to break this up very, very, very simplistic, so that there's a base level of understanding. Now, if you guys want to go and do dig deeper into your own research, please do so. I did that workshop on the trivium on thinking critically. Why? So that you guys can draw your own conclusions and that you guys can act. The purpose is not to sit on the information. I'm sick of hearing the same information. After a while, I get bored. I'm like, okay, now what? And I think my bestie said it well. I don't know if he's still on here, but he's like, well, what are you going to do? That's the truth. Because for me, I'm an action oriented person. I don't typically just talk. I'm constantly doing something and figuring out how I'm going to create with the information that I have. So the trick here is not to stay stagnant. The trick is not to just stay put. You know what the information is. You're getting all of this information. Now, what do you do with it? Who gives a shit if you have all this information? Who cares? Right? And I'm going to put it like that because it is. Who cares? Like you have this information. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Go out in public, don't go out in public. You can go walk, but you can't do this. It's so confusing for a lot of people, right? So here's the deal. What do we do for ourselves? How do we create with God? How do we say, okay, I got this information. Now what? So what? Right? So what? Now what? Do I stay home? Do I go out? Do I get essential stuff? Do I stay home? They're telling me if I stay home and inside it, I'm lowering my immune system, but they're saying that I have to. Then I go out and it's better for my immune system. So I should go out. But then if I go out, I might get this virus and then I might get sick. And then it's so freaking confusing, right? It's confusing the shit out of people purposefully. That there's a reason for that. Good morning, Rachel. And from an esoteric perspective, which is what I teach, what is happening is the divine feminine is starting to magnify herself through human. Now, chaos started, I told you guys a long time ago, if we don't get our shit together, what's going to happen? Chaos is going to come. We cannot stop it. This is not the point. We don't want to stop chaos from happening. Okay? What we want to do is understand how to utilize chaos for our benefit so that we are well, so that the people around us are well. So, how do you do this? Okay. How do we do this? Okay. So, Ali says many religious institutions are helping helpless people, giving. Okay, good. That's really great that they're supporting. Good morning, Doreen. That's really awesome that they're supporting, and that's the beauty, right? We as humans can support one another. If we have enough, we can give, right? Okay, here's the deal. I'm glad you guys are showing up today and listening because for me, I had to go through a process, right? And you guys saw my process. You guys know me. I tell you guys everything about my life. I'm just an open book. I'm authentic. I'm real. I'm raw. I'm vulnerable. I don't care. I'm going to speak. Now, here's the deal. I went through my process. And I started to say, okay, God, guide me to speak clearly so that these people, so I can support people so that they can get back to harmony and peace in the chaos. That's what's important right now. When you can find your peace and tranquility in the chaos, you are now able to co create with God again. You're able to get back into a process without being frozen in time. Right now, we're frozen. Most people are frozen. They don't know what to do next. They're waiting for some instruction. Okay. The reality is the instruction is going to come from you. This is very critical right now. And it's super important that we understand that the instruction has to come from you, not from me. Okay. Not from your neighbors, not from other people, but from you. You get to tell yourself what is next. Okay. Now, I've had trolls on here saying, oh, she doesn't practice what people just trying to badger. And, the thing about people badgering, which makes me happy, tells me I'm on the right track. Because if I'm not on the right track, people will stay quiet. If I'm on the right track, I hit a nerve, right? You see this, right, with Facebook. You see this when you start to speak truth, people start to like, nah, don't tell them the truth. Well, here's the truth. You guys are powerful. Here's the truth. You guys can get through this. Here's the truth. You have the power of God that lives within you. God dwells within every single person. Why? Because we're part of God. You are powerful. You are enough. And you have the tools that you need in order to move yourself to the next phase of what's about to happen. Okay? Things will not go back to the same. If they do, so be it. But they can't, right? You're welcome, Ellie. You're welcome. God bless you too. Okay, so here's what's gonna happen. Here's what you guys get to do. It's up to you. You get to choose it or not choose it. As you know, the way that I operate, especially those who have been with me for a long time, I just merely give suggestions. Whether you put it into practice is not up to me. I can't make you guys do things, right? That's not what I'm here to do. I'm just here to give you information. And if you take that information and apply it to your life, awesome. Some results should come from it. Asking yourself, what is the result that I want? Okay, so here we go. So we have chaos. Okay, now chaos is a divine feminine principle from the esoteric perspective. And I was looking for clarity in the storm. I was kind of getting wound up in all this stuff. And I'm like, Natalie, where is the lesson? Get yourself back to what you know and what is true for you. And what is true is this wisdom. What are we learning? What is the lesson? How do we apply it? Anytime that you apply a principle, anytime that you apply something to your life, if it causes conflict and chaos, not chaos. Sorry, let me retract that. If it causes conflict, then it's not God, okay? Then it's not the word. God will dissolve all conflict. So I thought, well, how do I dissolve all conflict, right? I had this troll show up, and thank God for the troll, right? Because the troll actually helped me to understand, and that's cool. That's awesome. What they did was amazing. It doesn't matter what kind of harsh words they put or what they said, because what it did is it allowed me to understand where I need to be in order to serve humanity. So here's the deal, okay? What is going to dissolve all of the issues right now? For me, I can tell you what it is for me. It's getting back to my principles, the foundation that we set on. There's principles and then there's law, okay? The principles are the things that you stand on firm and don't waver from. You don't break your principles, right? Your principles are like your values, like love, compassion, harmony, vulnerability, all of these things that you set your life on, kindness, whatever your principles are. You take those principles and then you apply them to some action in the world. How do I magnify? How do I co-create with the phenomena around me and stand in principle? Okay? That becomes your law. So while we're waiting for individuals to give us the law, you have your own laws. Those are more powerful. Why? Because they come from you. Now, here's the deal. Principles dissolve all conflict. Principles are not going to do harm. Principles are our essence, our true essence of peace and harmony and tranquility. They bring us back to that space. If we had the pendulum swinging from side to side, it brings us right back to center. Okay? That is what the principles will do for you. And if you stand firm in them, they dissolve all conflict. Okay? So understanding this, and then when we also stand in them and we co-create in the world, the laws that we have, right? Sometimes they're distorted, so we have to shift them. That's why we have amendments to laws. Laws are not static. We know this. There are some basic static laws, I will say, that they said here, God said here, this is your laws. And you cannot, don't break these laws, because if you break these laws, forget it. You're a mess. But there's other things where we're like, okay, um, and maybe it's somebody said not laws. I can't remember. Policies is what somebody said. Okay, so maybe they're policies that we have. There's grounded laws like do no harm. Do not covet thy neighbor's wife. I mean, come on. We were given 10 commandments. They make sense, right? It's like, okay, that I'm not going to go out and kill people. What? No. I'm not going to go covet the neighbor's wife. I'm not, so those types of things, right? Where we're looking at it. Now let's look at your own personal principles that you live by. Do you have them? Or is the answer no? Good morning, Josh. Good morning, Punker. Mrs. Aroa. Okay, sorry. Good morning, Franklin. Okay. So what we do is we create our principles. Now our principles come from our essence. And I'm just going to tell you what I did for me for this whole thing that's going on. Okay? Because I had triggers coming up for me too, right? I'm human. And in those triggers, it was like, why aren't people doing their own research on what's going on? Why is it this? Why is it that? Why this? And I was questioning everything because that's what I do. Started to research, started to look at what was going on, started to try to understand, listen to different opinions, listen to different people, listen to the science, listen to the opinions of the science, listen to doctors, all this stuff, right? And I'm like, no, if people are not set in their principle right now, they're probably confused like hell. That's what I thought. And they're going to continue, and then they're going to follow people, like they'll latch on to somebody who sounds like, oh yeah, that sounds right, and they'll listen and they'll latch on to that, and they must have the answer. I'm not going to tell you to do that. Find your own answers. Be a critical thinker. I gave you guys the secret sauce to do that. I provided that information to you guys. Grammar, logic, rhetoric. It's very simple. Go look up etymologies of the words. Go dig a little bit deeper. 3 years ago, I was talking about etymology of the words. I just posted a video up where I was talking about wealth and what it meant and its well-being and health. And I did my own field research on wealth and what it meant. Okay, so get to the etymology of the word. 1. 2, find the principles that dissolve all conflict. Love for me dissolves conflict. When I can love, no matter what, unconditional love. Not conditional, where it's like I love you if you think the way I do, but loving people for who they are no matter what. Now that's not an easy one. That's a very, very, very hard one to live into. So for this particular thing that we're going through, for this particular um, moment in time, that the things that are happening, I asked myself, what is the principle? And the principle is compassion. And I've been talking a lot about compassion. Why? Because it dissolves all conflict. I do not need to argue with people if I have compassion. I do not need to tell them what I think is right and wrong if I have compassion. It doesn't matter. It's not my journey. I can't force upon you how you guys feel and what you guys are experiencing. It's your experience, and I'm not going to take that away from people. That is not my job. My job is not to tell you to be afraid or not afraid of what is going on. My job is not to tell you what you need to do to dissolve that. My job is not to judge you for how you're engaging this information. That is not my job. So however you take this information, now here's the deal. I see people that wear masks and gloves. And when they're wearing these masks and gloves, in my mind, I'm saying I can have compassion because they're probably afraid. They're afraid of something, right? They're afraid. I live my life differently, but I don't need to make them right for that. I don't need to make them wrong for that. I don't need to be right or wrong about anything. I can merely love them no matter what. And if they attack me, it's okay. I understand why I'm being attacked. I'm being attacked because of their fear and they're wanting to project their fear on me. But I don't live my life that way. And I don't have to submit to the way somebody else lives their life. I don't have to judge it. It just dissolves all the conflict, right? It dissolves it all. This one principle dissolves it all. Now, I looked up the etymology of the word compassion because that's what I do. Okay. I'm telling you guys, it's very simple for you guys to be critical thinkers. Just look up the word, look up the definition, look up the etymology. Okay. And calm, which is together, and pati, which is suffer. And when you put it together, compati, which turned into compassion later on, became what? Became together we suffer. Compassion means together we suffer. Now, there's other words there that said pity and all this, but I don't have pity. It's not about pity. It's understanding that we all suffer. So I like the first word, compati, instead of compassion. Compati, together we suffer. Now, we can take this back to the Buddhist teachings of everyone is suffering, right? In Buddhism, that's what they say, that the first principle of Buddhism, there is suffering. That's it. Now, this is a known truth. We suffer. We suffer. All of us. There are some things that we do as humans together. I think we get amnesia and forget that we all have to go through some similar things. Okay. There's certain things that we're going to go through as humans that we did not design. We didn't create it, but we can either accept it or not accept it. And if we don't accept it, there's more suffering in not accepting it than there is suffering. Okay. Then there's not. Okay. So here are a couple of things. Okay. Thanks, Sally. I appreciate you. Good morning, Echo. What's your question, Echo? I don't know if you have a question you want to talk, but I can't put you on because I'm on live on Facebook as well, and they wouldn't be able to hear you. Otherwise, I would bring guests on here and answer questions. Okay, together we suffer. So here's the deal. We suffer. I forgot what I was going to talk about. See, I lost my train of thought. That's okay. Happens. Okay. What's your topic? Good morning, Zippy. Um, I'm talking about how we can dissolve all conflict in the when we're now that we're going through this pandemic or lockdown or shutdown or isolation or incubation or whatever you want to call it. Okay. So if somebody can remind me what I was saying, that's fine. If not, I'm just going to continue talking because you know me, I talk a lot. Okay. So together we suffer. Now we dissolve conflict, right, by standing firm in our principle. And we can love one another and bring ourselves back to love all the time. Now, in the essence, in the beingness is where we find that all conflict is dissolved. The essence are basic principles. Okay. So, oh, that's what I was talking about, the Buddhism. Together we're suffering and then we can't. And there's a couple of truths. Sorry. Okay. I remember what I was saying. Sorry, guys. I just, whoop. Now I remember. There's certain things, there's certain knowns, there's certain agreements that we have as humans that we know we're going to go through. And I didn't design it this way. And the more that we resist these known truths, the harder our life is because we live in fear of it. When we surrender to it and accept it, it's not as hard. Okay. Okay. So here's the deal. What are the known truths that we have? One, everyone is suffering. Everyone goes through suffering in their life once more than once. I mean, we're always suffering, right? There's always something happening, right? It's a big drama all the time. Like if everybody had a reality show, we'd see that everybody's always going through something. Okay. Rich, poor, doesn't matter. Everybody goes through it. Okay. One. The two is death. Everybody will die. Now that sounds very like, God, that's not very kind just to say it out like that, but it's just a fact, right? I'm not saying it to fear people, fear of it, but these are some known things that we know. We know. We know. Everybody knows this. Okay. Now, the suffering is a little bit harder because it's over a longer span, a longer period, right? And through the suffering, we feel like, oh, now all of a sudden we have this thing that's like finalized, which is our death, which we feel is a final thing. We feel like it's it. Okay. Now, here's the deal. How we engage these particular things is really important. So it's what it does is it allows us to either not do something or to do something. You can sit and wait out, right? People can wait for death to come. That's one way of doing it, right? They can just sit and wait out, or people can go and take risks, not being afraid and experience something with the end result being death, because the end result really is, I mean, that's it. We're all going to perish. Now, compassion comes in there. So, how does compassion play into this? There are people right now that are afraid of death. They're very fearful of it. Do we judge them? Do I judge them? No. Am I afraid of death? No. Do I need them to believe what I believe? No. Do I need them to understand it the way I understand it? No. Do I need them to accept it the way I accept it? No. That's not the point. The point is that that is their suffering. They're afraid and they suffer because of it. They put themselves in anxiety. They da 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 da. Can I understand that? Yes, because there's things that I fear. So now we've come to common ground with a person. Now we understand, oh, I don't need to be mad. I don't need to be mad at this person for fearing death. I don't need to be mad at this person for, you know, putting all kinds of stuff on their face and constantly putting because they're afraid of death. Some people are afraid of germs. Some people, it's not that they're afraid of death, they're afraid of germs. And they're going to, and as soon they're germaphobes, they can't help it in their mind. There's a trigger for them. And so they're constantly, and now because they're telling everybody to put hand sanitizer, they're bathing in this stuff. Are we going to make fun of them? Are we going to be cruel to them? No. Or you can if you want to. But to dissolve that is to have compassion, understand that they are going through their own suffering. And you can understand suffering because everybody suffers. Compassion. Together we suffer. Principles. The principle of compassion, it brings us back to human connection, human understanding. It brings us back to peace and harmony and tranquility. Why? Because now we can share a common ground with the rest of humanity. We understand that we're in it together. It brings us back to our peace and tranquility. It recenters us and it allows us to move forward. The goal being, right? So who cares? Why are we doing this? Why do we want to dissolve conflicts? Why do we want to bring ourselves back to peace? Because when we're with God, we're in action. When we're co-creating with with the world around us, we're in action. We don't just sit around saying, God, give me this and that and not do anything. You've got to move. That circles back to what I was talking about at the beginning of this. What actions are you taking? Now, first, ask yourself, are you still stuck in the chaos of all this craziness that's going on? Or have you found your peace and tranquility in it? Are you still in the chaos? Which one? Chaos, peace, and tranquility. Which one? If you're not uncomfortable right now, okay, this is another thing. If you're not uncomfortable right now, things are going to get worse. Because why? Because God is saying, wake up. Wake up. Things are going to get crazier before they get better until people wake up. And one of them is going to put you in conflict. It's going to put you in the chaos. Why? Because in order for you to get to the peace, you have to go through the chaos. Otherwise, you're just comfortable and lukewarm. And there's parables in the Bible about being lukewarm. Why is lukewarm not good? Because it doesn't get you to move. The result being move, be in action, be in right action. Asking yourself, okay, am I grounded? Have I gone through the chaos? Have I come to the peace? Now what am I creating? Now what? Show me, God, what's next? Now, for me, compassion is what it is. The lesson might be something else for you. It might be forgiveness. I don't know. It might be overcoming fear. It might be, I don't know what it is for you. Okay. I'm giving you the example of how you come to a principle and that the principle dissolves all conflict. Now, one last thing before I go. This video that I was having you guys or want you guys to watch if you want to. I'm going to put it up on my Spirit and Coffee page. Is a man talking about the Mahabharata Ramayana, which is the Indian text, right? And he talks about how this is getting played out and administered through their principles and understanding of the world. And he talks about principle in law. And I like it because it's a very simple way to understand this. He talks about people who uphold the law to the T, even though it compromises the principle or doesn't live into the principle. Or the people who live into principle to the point that they would be willing to die for the principle because they know that this law is not correct. Okay. So it shows you where we are, and it kind of can help you to understand what are your principles and what are your laws. What are you creating for yourself in your family, in your seal, in your flag that you fly, right? We know that the United States of America is corrupt. We get that, right? I hope you guys know that. There's a lot of shady stuff that's happened. Let's just talk about Social Security. We know that that's like, what about the Gates or the Ponzi, Freddie Mac and Freddie May and Mac and all the, we know that, okay? We don't look to government to lay the law out, right? If we want to be righteous, we have to look at our own laws. What do we live by? And if we're living by the law that dissolves all conflict won't and not, does no harm, then guess what? You're always going to be blessed. You're going to be blessed abundantly because you're not here to do harm. You're just here to live and experience and co-create. Okay. So tomorrow, because I really wanted to give you guys a grounding on understanding the principles and the laws, that tomorrow we'll talk a little bit about the finance. Okay. That's going to be a big, huge thing. I want you guys to know that the financial industry is about to change drastically. And there's a couple of things that you can do, right? You can start, if you have money, start away, go buy land. I don't know, go figure out what you're going to do. Do a little bit of research for yourself. However you do it, just know that this isn't over. It's not going away. Okay? It's going to continue. So I'm going to be here to support you guys through it as long as I can help you through it. Okay? Because there might, like I said, there might be a day where technology for me is cut off completely and I disappear. I'm just saying. I have a set of principles that I live by, and I will not compromise principle, even at the expense of my life. That's me. Doesn't have to be you. You can learn how to marry law and principle together, but sometimes the law doesn't want to listen to the principle, and You'll have to just watch the video that I'm going to send you guys. Please watch it, okay? Now, I hope this was helpful. I want you guys to get back to the principles because this is really a platform of love and bringing you guys back to God over and over and over again, back to love over and over, no matter what is faced, no matter what happens, no matter what stones are thrown, no matter what people say about me or what people say about you or how they're trying to steer you in a different direction. Always come back to God. God is your refuge, okay? Oh, you're welcome, Suze. Just remember that. We get amnesia very quickly. And if God isn't your everything, where you're obsessed over God every second of the day, we get amnesia very quickly. And we start to steer off into the ether. How do I ground myself back? And then we don't know what's true and what's not true. What is true is your principles. They will always be true and they can never be taken away. That's the beauty. Never. There was that movie 1984 and they tried to take away love, right? Love for another intimacy, love. And they try to reprogram them through a bunch of pain, right? Like self-inflicted pain, reprogram. Even in the Hunger Games, if you go back, they try to shock people out of feeling a certain way. Okay. Okay. So in those things, they try to reprogram, but guess what? They can't reprogram principle. That's yours and yours alone. When you know what your principles are, that cannot be taken away from you. And you can stand in those principles knowing that you are doing no harm. And so why should harm befell upon you? Look at Jesus Christ. He stood firm in principle at the expense of his life, right? Why? Because he wasn't doing anything to harm anybody. And then they felt bad and guilty after what they did because they knew that what they did was not righteous. They were like, oh, oops. Why did we do that? When you have your principles and you stand firm, and if someone inflicts harm upon you, guess what? People will stand up and they'll start to protect you because they know that you're not there to do harm. It dissolves all conflict, okay? Just want you guys to know that, right? So death is part of life. Yes, my mom told me the day you are born is the day you start dying. That's right. So true. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. That's right. So thank you for your insights and thank you for always talking about grandma. I love it. I just wished I cry. I wished I would have met that woman, I tell you. Um, I really do. It really makes me sad. That's the one person in my life that I feel close to that I don't even know her, but I feel close to her. Okay. So there you have it, you guys. Thank you, Suze. I'm glad it was helpful. Tomorrow I'm going to be talking sort of about finance, money. What does that mean? And I'm giving you guys this information because things are about to shift even more drastically. Um, you know, part of it is having foresight. And I know that like I keep talking about this person that left a comment because what they're saying is not entirely true. I've talked about prophecy before, and I just want to go into this really quickly. Prophecy is not really prophecy. And I've said this before in my live videos. So what they're saying, they obviously don't watch me is what it is. They watched one video and made assumptions or whatever. They're trolls. I don't know. It's Facebook trying to do, I don't know what it is. Anyway, doesn't matter. Prophecy is not really prophecy. Prophecy is more looking at patterns and understanding patterns and trends. That's really what it is. And once you do, you can kind of make a picture of what's coming up. Very simple. Anyone can do it. And looking at the patterns that are about to come up, I can tell you that what I see happening in the near future is the entire financial system collapsing completely. Okay. Um, And I'm just saying this as a preface so that you guys have at least a little bit of headway before things go crazy, and that you kind of understand and stay grounded. Okay. And that you don't lose your shit if that were to happen. That's really what I'm here to do, is help you find your way back to God. And remember, you're abundant. Remember, you have enough. Okay. Over and over and over again. And that we can get through. So there you have it. And I love you guys. And I will be talking to you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye bye.